Hey everyone, my name is Donny. I'm 40 years old and I'm mentally ill. I am a recovering addict and being diagnosed with bipolar, and I've tried to take my life on numerous occasions. I can remember, as far as I can remember, I've been mentally ill, and that's back to around when I was around 4.5, 5, and the first instance was I walked into a bonfire, and I walked in with no hesitation or fear, and from that day onwards I think my life changed forever. I wasn't very good at school. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't retain information, and I couldn't explain to people why, and I guess that's why I was called stupid by a teacher. He never bothered to ask, had no interest, and he bullied me for the 2 years I was in his class. And as I went along in primary school, and 5th and 6th class was the same thing. I was put into slow class or remedial class for an hour every day, and I remember getting, as all the kids did, we used to get beaten with a leather strap if we got a spelling wrong. So you can imagine 20 spellings, 20 belts, and that sticks with you. One word can define your own perspective on yourself, and I thought I was stupid all the way up to a couple of years ago, but that wasn't the case. I guess I'm going to start with secondary school, and I was around 13, and I was slightly feminine, so I was a good target for bullying, and one guy in particular bullied me for the 2 years continuously, unto a point I couldn't take it anymore. Being called faggot and puff and queer every day for 2 years, and it being said in front of other people, it's something you don't want to happen to you, especially when you're trying to hide your sexuality because you're ashamed of it and you actually don't understand it. At this point I started self-harming. I would make myself physically sick by sticking my fingers back my throat, or I would actually be so terrified to go to school I would actually get sick. I'd also would punch myself in my thigh until it was black and blue, and then when that one was black and blue I'd go to the other one. I was depressed at this stage of my life. For me to get up in the mornings to go to school, I would make any excuse not to go to school. My mind was going to really, really dark places. I was planning lots about suicide in my head. I was, just thinking about it all the time. There was no internet, so I couldn't research it. And one day I had it all decided this was the day, so I woke up in the morning. It would have been March, and it was a Saturday, and I walked out along the coast, and I remember sitting for 15-20 minutes, and I was just sobbing like a baby, I was just so sad, and I was so confused why this was happening to me, and I just didn't understand. And I got up and I walked to the edge, and I was going to jump, but an image of my mother and father came in my head, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't put them through the pain of them not knowing why I had done it, because I didn't have the courage to tell anybody I was being bullied, because then everybody would know I was gay. And I remember sitting there and just thinking how much of a failure I was, that I couldn't tell anybody I was being bullied because I was gay, and I couldn't tell. And and I couldn't even jump off a cliff, you know, and that stuck with me for all my teens. You know, I was just always thinking about it, always trying to get the courage to end it all. And pain like that never goes away. That's something I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And I let somebody do that to me. And I don't like myself for that, because I wouldn't let somebody do it to somebody else. So I kept self-harming, and you know, my lies got worse and worse because I had to lie. I had to pretend I was somebody else. I always say to myself, some people call me Don and some people call me Donny. I was always Donny. Donny was the happy one, the fun one. And Don was the sad one and the confused one. And the one that was hurting. And sometimes I didn't know why I was hurting. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be okay, and then the following day I would be so low and so sad. By the age of 19, I was taking drugs quite a lot. I started drinking quite early. I started drinking around 15. And I suppose that was just a progression to drugs, and my drug of choice was ecstasy and speed, and after that one ecstasy tablet I was hooked. Oh, I was hooked because it made me be Donny all the time, and Don was lost for a while. But that only can last for so long. And I was really struggling with my sexuality at this time. And believe it or not, I still struggle with my sexuality today. You might find that hard to believe, but I do. Yeah, by 19 I was taking drugs, you know, not every day, but I was taking drugs 3 or 4 times a week, going clubbing, and I had a really good bunch of friends, well, people that I used to hang around with, and I was such a different person. I was the life soul of the party. Everybody wanted to be around me, you know what I mean? And I was, that dark place in my head was just, it was pushed back to the back of my head, and I wasn't there for a while. But drugs only can mask that so long, and oh, there was just a bang. I was in a car crash, and that was like a week before my 21st birthday, and that's when I ended up in rehab. And I guess I had to face a lot of things head on, and I had to deal with a lot of things head on, and I did, but I don't think rehab was the place for me at that time. I think more psychiatric ward would have been better, because in rehab they couldn't understand how I got to this place so quickly, and that like I didn't have any, like, as I say, underlying issues like abuse, sexual abuse. You know, I came from a really stable family with loving parents, and I have 5 brothers that, like, we were all so close. So I spent 6 weeks there, and after that I came out and I was clean for a while. But that didn't last long. You know, I started drinking again, and then when there's drink, there's drugs. I started taking drugs. And I just existed for the next 5 years, I reckon, until 2006, when I met somebody, a really wonderful guy that I fell madly in love with. I got addicted to, really. He understood me, and he didn't judge me, and he accepted my quirks and my flaws, and that was okay for a while. I stopped drinking, and there was no drugs, but the crack started to show, so we emigrated to Edinburgh, and I think that's when my life went to shit, really. He couldn't take it any longer, so we parted ways, and I took that really, really badly. I lost somebody that loved me, and it was my fault again. So I started using every day and every night, and I was using legal highs, and day and night, 7 days a week. I lost 2 jobs, and then I finally got a job in a bar, and they knew I used at work. I lived in the apartment upstairs, so for 6 months it was just non-stop, every day, every night. And I started self-harming again. I used to get a pin, like a needle, and drag it on my skin. I have all the marks here on my wrists, some here, some underneath my tattoo. And I think, looking back now, when I knew things were really, really bad, I got a kettle of water and I poured it over my leg. I have a scar all the way here. And I remember I rushed myself. I rang the ambulance and they brought me to the hospital, and I told them what happened. And still, they let me go 2 hours later. A week later, I had a plan that I was going to end it all for good. That was it. I had enough. You know, I had enough of hating myself. I had enough of feeling I had enough of feeling. That says it all. So I woke up one Friday morning and went to the head shop, and I bought around £60 worth of synthetic ecstasy and cocaine, and went to work that night. When I finished, I went upstairs and I took 2 or 3 pills, and I went out to the club clubbing. I love to dance even when I'm not high. And I remember saying goodbye to everybody, like all my mates, and I came back to my flat and I locked the door and I started taking one pill after another pill after another pill. And all I could think was, this is going to be over soon. Like, this is going to stop. And I remember just sinking back into my pillow, and all I could think was about my mum and dad, and how they wouldn't have to worry about me anymore. That they don't. But thank God it didn't work, because I woke up 36 hours later in my own urine and feces. And I was so angry at myself that I didn't take more. But I didn't, and that means I'm here. And I remember ringing home and asking for help, to bring me back. So my brother paid for my ticket, and that night before I came home, I had to sleep rough on on the streets of Edinburgh, and it's not a very nice thing. I didn't have enough money to get a hotel room or a hostel, and my brother had paid for the ticket online, so I had to get to the airport, and I had no money to go to the airport, so I had to the police station and asked them to give me a lift. I know I got home and I must have been around 7 stone. I looked so bad, and I could just see my mother's face. And all they did was give me a hug, and they knew. They didn't have to say anything. I hid away for 2 months, and I left the house, and I was walking, and I got the courage to get a job, and I was to start the following Monday, but that Monday I was walking, and I remember it was the first panic attack I ever got, and I was just terrified. And I remember coming home to my mother, and I was just in tears, and I just said, "Can I tell you something?" And I said, "You know, I tried to commit suicide," and all she did was hug me, and that's all I needed. And I remember she went back to the restaurant I was supposed to start in, and she told them that I couldn't start today, and that I'd start tomorrow, and then I did start tomorrow. But things didn't get any better. I started using again. I was buying drugs online. And this carried on for the next 3 years, and I remember waking up one morning, and I was just like, I looked in the mirror, I said, "You're doing it all over again." I just seen, the person I seen in there was horrible. It's like the hatred I had for that person, which I shouldn't have, I do, because I just wished that person, I looked and I wished, why didn't you finish it off in Edinburgh? Why are you causing all this pain? Why are you causing all this worry? You are so selfish. But that only ever lasted a minute, and then it was, my mind would just close off. It was just seal, you know what I mean? And I'd go to the doctor, and they'd say, "Yeah, you're depressed. Here's the antidepressants." The antidepressants didn't work. You know what I mean? And no one would ask me how I was feeling. But by chance, I was sitting in a pub one day, and I was just having a drink. And she was telling about these 2 guys that set up their own circuit training business and personal training business. And I made an appointment to see them 2 days later, and they decided to take me on as a personal client, so I started the following Monday, and that's where things changed. It gave me a focus, it gave me drive, you know, the running gave me such boost in confidence and self-esteem, and it was, the more I ran, the better I felt. So, like, I run every day, and I know the day I don't run, I feel down. And even days I run, I still feel down. You know, I've been diagnosed with bipolar, and that's a mood disorder, and it can just creep up behind you at any minute. But I'm being medicated for it, and you know, with the running and the exercise and my medication and visits to my psychiatrist, I've never felt better. You know, I look forward to getting up every day now, and days can be hard, but you know, I have a structure and a program set in place for myself that if anything, if there is any signs, people do notice them. I'm very open about my mental health now. I speak about it openly on my Facebook page, and believe it or not, that has helped me a lot, because when I'm feeling down and I have no one else to talk to, I put a post on Facebook, and you know, the advice I get from people might be very, very little, but it can help a lot. And the feedback I get from people as well makes it all worthwhile. You know, I'm in contact with a lot of people all around the country, and we have good chats, bad chats, disagreements, but it's an outlet for people like me that wouldn't have as much, I won't say as much, wouldn't have as much confidence to be so open about it. People that with their jobs that they can't be open about it, and that's a shame in this country, that there's still such a stigma with mental health, and even more with mental illness, and even those words shouldn't be used in the same sentence together. But there is no shame in having a mental illness, and there is no shame in admitting that you need help. The sooner you ask for help, the easier it is for the problem to be solved. I wouldn't want anybody to go through what I went through, and have the regrets that I have, and still have some of the fears that I have. I feared that I could wake up tomorrow morning and be in the same situation as I was 3.5 years ago, and that could happen, and that's very, very frightening. I'm very hard on myself. You know, I have to run and I have to do everything, and if my day doesn't go as planned, it can put me off for a week. So people say I'm too hard on myself, but I need structure. Structure is key to me. You know, I never thought I'd make my 40th birthday, and I have, and I've gone past 40, and I didn't have a big birthday party. I spent time on my own. I celebrated on my own, and for the first time I sat back and I said, you know, you're a really good company. You're really smart. So if there was hope for me, there's hope for you, and you. Suicide is a terrible thing. What I've noticed, when someone commits suicide, the first question somebody asks is, how did they do it? And it makes me so angry. We should be asking, why did they do it? Or, they're so selfish. Look what the mess they've left behind. It's not selfishness, it's hopelessness. You wouldn't say that to a person suffering from cancer, or a person with another serious illness. You wouldn't call them selfish if they were going to die. Mental illness is a real illness, and it has to be treated as one. The resources have to be put into place. There's enough talking about it, there's enough awareness. Now we need action, education. We need someone in the government with the balls to stand up and said, we've got this wrong over the last 20 years and we need to get it right. I hope my story helps. Even just one person. Speak, 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 and speak really loud until you're heard. Thank you for listening. Be safe, be well.